Oliver, thank you so much for being with me today.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
Today I have the pleasure of being with Oliver Dawson. He is a holistic chiropractor and a sound healer.
That is true.
I like how that sounds.
Does sound
Maybe
cool.
we can touch first on what is a holistic chiropractor.
Right, yeah. So a holistic chiropractor for me is someone who is really trying to serve someone at multiple levels, and we're having a viewpoint of life and our experience as a human going through life as having multi-factors. So our goal is to help increase someone's happiness, joy, health, vitality, and we understand that there may be various different inroads to activate that. But really at the heart of it, in terms of being a chiropractor, we're trying to really assess and tune into what is current in someone's physicality, where there's tensions, where there's blockages, and we're trying to create liberation. But we're aiming to do it in a way that really meets the subtleties of the body as well, creating trust, because then people tend to open up more, and then it becomes a deeper healing kind of mechanism. Holism also is linked to the name that I chose for my brand, which is Holon Chiropractic.
That's right.
And so the root word of holistic really comes from holos, which is the Greek word for whole. So the word holon is the concept of the word whole with an on put on the end of it. So that on means particle, like proton, neutron, electron.
Yes.
So this is the concept that we can be a part whilst simultaneously being a whole. So you're a whole person, but you're also part of humanity, as we all are. So I really, when I heard that concept, I really loved the idea behind it. So I actually chose to name my clinic that. So yeah, the concepts of holograms. I read a book many years ago called The Holographic Universe, which is a very mind-blowing healing book, written by a pretty mind-opened medical doctor going back a few decades, and lots of interesting examples of various kind of healings that you could only really explain on the quantum level. But he talked about the universe being holographic, and I had never heard, what does that mean? I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know what hologram really was, other than I'd seen like a little 3D image of something in a petrol station, of a little guy fighting another guy or something. But what a hologram is you have a holographic film and you shine light through it, and then you get a 3D image. But with a holographic film, if you then cut it into 4 pieces and then shine the light through, you don't have a quarter of the image, you have the whole.
Yes.
And that would keep going down to a small level. I don't know how small with holographic film, but the idea of the universe being holographic was paying homage to the idea that everything's connected and all the information of the universe is at some level contained even in the smallest part. Or if not contained, somehow accessible.
Of course.
Perhaps it has no exact location in some respects.
I like that. Exactly.
I like the concepts.
Yeah. And I think everybody can see now that you're also a teacher, because you are. And clearly you can see it. I believe you're doing now some seminars and some retreats.
Yeah, I'm kind of stepping a bit more into that role, and I'm so partly through this journey with the sound. It's really powerful process, and it's very much needs to be shared with people and experienced. And there's something quite deep and quite magical about the power of things like the gongs, especially. I have to say, they are very transportative, very healing, very loving, and yeah, they're very fun as well. I love them a lot. So yes, part of this role, I'm starting to do some retreats, and part of that is sharing healing concepts with people. That we can explore and that may, add to someone's way of thinking and life and that kind of thing. And also with that, I'm interested in doing collaborations with other practitioners, chiropractors, other types of healers that I find interesting and that we want to work together and go through learning a particular method, for example, but then also adding in some sound healing as well. In a nice nature setting, which is what we've got going on here at the house. So, yeah.
Where is it located?
Yeah, we are about half an hour from Girona, 1.5 hours from Barcelona, near Banyoles. So we're in Catalonia. But we're in a forest up a hill.
Yes.
It's quite secluded. It's very nice. Yeah.
And if people want to get in contact with you or see for seminars,
right, they can have a look on my Instagram. I will bit by bit put up more dates and things on there. That is bit of a mouthful. It's Neuro Harmonic Retreats.
Okay, we'll put it written also.
So we break down those words again. Chiropractic's all about neurology in a sense. It's about your nervous system. It's about how well does the brain see into the body? How well is the liberation of communication from your body back to your brain? And the idea of chiropractic is, if that dialogue, that communication is free, then the brain can make the best choices for your health in that moment. So neurological, harmonic, or harmony, harmonics of sound. That's kind of why I chose that name, just I like that one. And retreats, because I'm starting to do retreats, because as I said, I wanted to be able to go a bit deeper with people in that kind of transformational moment that we can get to if we have enough time and space. And that's certainly within chiropractic, we touch on that. But when I had these gongs, for example, in my clinic, and it was very fun, very powerful, but they also needed the ability to have a bit more time and go deeper, hence my motivation to do the retreats as well.
Yes. Does that mean then the retreats are for people who want to just learn how to heal themselves, or for them to heal others? Or is it?
It's kind of it's kind of both, actually. And I think certainly from my aspect, the kind of healing I'm interested in is more learning principles that are actually foundational, so they're relevant for your life as they are for helping how you engage in your healing practice if you are some sort of practitioner. But even if you're just trying to heal yourself more as a human, so you have better relationships, get on with people better, less taken off center by your environment, more able to navigate through some of the stresses in life. So tools to really empower oneself, empower one's mind, and help you come home and be liberated. That's what I'm certainly most interested in. So along my path, as a chiropractor, but a big interest in the mind in general, and how our deeper healing is largely happening at the empowered mind level, meaning we have programs running the show behind the scenes, and they're either helping support us and lift us up, or they're suppressing us and maybe trying to protect us but not letting us grow. Maybe we don't feel safe enough to expand, etc. So often we have wounds we have to heal through before we can master those aspects of ourselves. For me, that's the most liberating thing we can do as a person, and to improve our life, and then that ripple effect on how we can help others if we're in a better state ourselves. That's what it's about for me. So that's a huge passion of mine. I'm very quite mind orientated, and then also that's part of it, and then it's also coming home to trying to get to the heart as well, of course.
Yes,
it's the marriage of those things.
And how does your work come into play to help people realize what their wound is? Because you do many things, but how do you integrate sound and chiropractic and... it's a really good question. It's really about, a lot of it's about awareness. It's about awareness. So the point is, often when people are coming to me at my chiropractic clinic, they've got, this limitation or pain or digestive problem or whatever it is, whatever issues expressing through their physical. But I believe in everything is either heavily more structural, more emotional, more biochemical, the mixture of the three, and then maybe spiritual as well. So yes, I'm trying to tune into what is underneath. So not just the expression of the problem, what's more
what's not being understood, what's in the body that's not being understood. So it's really being sensitive, it's your intuition in a sense. However, I'm an applied kinesiologist as well, which is another chiropractic method originally. It's a way of using muscle testing to identify where there's weakness, and indeed if that weakness is related more to emotion, is it related more to just physical, structural stuff, or biochemical stuff, or you keep drinking the wrong stuff or eating the wrong stuff, is that keeps overloading your system. So the more we can learn how to treat ourselves better, but the more we can heal some of those emotional wounds, and that's a huge one. How do I do that in my practice? This is where chiropractics. One of the things when I got interested in chiropractic, I read that it was a philosophy. It's a philosophy of life and healing. It's a science, the body, science of the body, neurology and physiology. It's an art, which means that we have an application, we have a way of doing something. So it's not just a philosophical, abstract thing. It's like, how can we read the body? How can we do what we call an adjustment in chiropractic, which is finding that place within the body, the spine primarily, and anywhere in the body, that a door that is wanting really to open, but it needs that little help. And we'll do an adjustment to help bring that more light into that system. So sometimes we have areas within us that have shut down, that haven't felt safe to open up. So all that healing's been put on the back burner for the future.
Yes.
Someone from external, like a chiropractor or anyone, can become aware of that, witness it, bring awareness to it, touch, get someone to breathe into the area. Then your mind begins to go, oh wow, yeah, there is that thing I've forgotten about or I've hidden away, and maybe I can shine some connection onto that. Yes. Chiropractic is really about connection. You either are having more stressful force or more healing force, and we want to bit by bit get more and more into that healing force. And then those stressors, so outside of us we still might have stress, but it's not taking us off center the same way.
Of course.
Yeah, it's just that process really.
And how does a person go to the path of healing? Mm-hmm. Do they want to heal, or do they just stumble upon it? Can they really heal if they don't want to heal? Mm. Because you as facilitators can do so much for a person, right? Right, exactly. Change is scary. Probably change is one of the most scary things for people. So often someone can be aware that in a stressful, painful situation, you open this door to to beauty and paradise, and they're like, no, I'm not going there. That's too scary. Wow, yes. So healing has its time, it has its time. It's not about judging. Some people aren't ready to make that particular step in that time in their life, but if we can communicate and connect, that door might begin to open. I know certainly in my after I was learning some really powerful healing methods, at that time, this was quite some years ago, and I was still thinking, oh my, this is brilliant. I know this really messed up person, I can fix them now. And they would just run out the door pretty much, because that feeling of someone wanting to fix you is actually kind of like, it comes from a good place, but it's scary. So it's you have to open that door. It's like taking the horse to water. They have to want to drink it. So I think it is like that. So no, the healing has to come from within, but you can open that door, and you're a bridge. And if you didn't open that door, it might be many more years till they get to that place. So you can certainly bridge the gap and help someone along that journey. And just do your best. It's like, you just do the best you can, I think, as someone in healing. You try and help people and enjoy the process, and just honor it for what it is. And for me, just enjoy the beauty of it as well. It means a lot. Certainly, if you can, it's a magical thing if you can really share something with someone that really helps them remember their truth and their power and the life they could have. And this doesn't have to be a chiropractic adjustment. This could just be
some words with a stranger. You know, it could just be sharing that nugget of point of view, of wisdom, say, with someone that might just really, you know, change their life. You know, you never know.
Of course, because people, I think, don't realize the power that they have and how they can really change their life completely and heal and improve and
sure.
So yeah,
exactly. And in terms of that, and how do you help someone get there, and the awareness and all that, a lot of the challenge is, I believe, is often when we have these problems, we've been trained that we've got to find the solution, and therefore, in most people's way of thinking, it can be like, who do I blame? Whose fault is this? What happened?
Yes.
And we get a bit too stuck in the story, and it's like, there's a place for that. And the same with like going around in circles trying to understand who did what wrong to you and all the rest of it. The point is, there's a wound, there's probably a theme. You know, some people have recurrent, you know, challenges of the same kind of thing. You know, they keep, you know, feeling, you know, betrayed or abandoned or whatever it is, until they liberate themselves enough to get through that. It's very interesting, but you know, I think your in my experience, just having a mindset that change is possible. That the most important thing is just getting real and being honest and seeing what is there, feeling it, but you're not judging it as wrong. That's the other thing, you know. One of my statements is, you know, wellness doesn't come from wrongness, you know. So by that I mean, we're not going to get anywhere making where we're at wrong, you know. And we'll often do this, and that just creates resistance, and that just it slows our progression at the end of the day. So sometimes it's, you know, healing comes from acceptance, you know. That's what they say. So that's one of the key things. So if you just get that point where you can accept, it doesn't mean like, oh great, I'm accepting that people want to, I don't know, abuse me or something or whatever. It's like, no, but it's like accepting where you've got to is giving you a unique opportunity to learn a path of healing and wisdom, you know. And there's everything in your path is, what do they say? I think they say it's not in your way, it's on your way. It's for you to grow through. So I think remembering that is important, and and that's it for me really. But it's really that, it's like getting away from judgment, and I always say it's more the difference between witnessing and judging. It's attachment, basically. Same when I'm serving people, when I'm doing chiropractic with someone, just being honouring the process, not trying to just not judge it really, just kind of just appreciate it, be in the moment. And that kind of thing. Okay. And for me, that's an important place to be, yeah.
Of course. I also feel that healing is a journey. It's just not one stop. But once you get on that train and you really want to heal, it takes time, it takes effort. Can you speak a little bit more about that, the work that you do to facilitate that?
Right, sure. I mean, it does. It's like, and then at the same time, you can have deep breakthroughs. Often people are on the edge. They're on they're trying. They're reading the self-help books. They're you know, trying to begrudgingly do their gratitude list in the morning, or they're doing this or that, and they're doing good things. And it's helping go in, but it might not be deep enough to have that big breakthrough. That's actually where things like the gongs are very powerful, because they will really take you very deep, actually, into the mind, which is very interesting. But that's the interesting thing with the mind. It's like, it's this surrender. If you can surrender just that bit more, that's where liberation can happen. So the point is, you can have a life-changing transformation in a short space of time. You can, if you can get to that depth of intensity. I know we spoke behind the scenes before about, we both like Joe Dispenza's work, for example. So he talks a lot about brainwave patterns and this kind of thing, and how much more your brain's downloading when it's going into more like states of, so from beta, which is very buzzy and stressed brain, to alpha and theta, delta, and then gamma, which is a hugely active brain. But that's where there's a rewriting of your whole code, I think. And that seems to be where massive transformation does happen in the moment. And another teacher years ago, someone I listened to who and I met her once, a woman called Sue Morter, who her father developed this technique called BEST, which is Bioenergetic Synchronization technique, which is an emotional-based kind of one of the chiropractic evolved techniques. Really amazing work, and she's a really amazing person. And she was saying basically everything's happening at your mind level, and for your mind to change, it's either happens like a drip of water, drip, drip, drip. That's low intensity, but you need lots over long duration. So you have to put those positive drips in every day, which is good, like looking in the mirror and telling yourself you love yourself or whatever you have to do.
Yes.
Or the opposite of that would be, oh my God, my self-talk, I'm so stupid, I'm always letting, blah, 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 all the negative stuff we put on each other. Or how the brain changes in an instant is if there's a high intensity. So that drip is like the low intensity. The high intensity is when we're more emotionally engaged. That's what Joe Dispenza talks a lot about, when you're in the trying to feel and really connect to that raw emotion moving within you as fuel. And when we can do that, that's the fuel we need to get to another place. But that's how we open, I believe, that states of mind where there's a lot of change and reprogramming, which can happen in an instant. But other than that, like you say, it takes time. We know we're dynamic beings, and we have breakthroughs. And I think the more we can have breakthroughs and find powerful, healthy, fun things we can do every day that just lift our vibe and our mood.
Yes, of course.
That's what I think people should try to find, whatever works for them in that way.
Definitely.
And experience, finding experience that bring you closer to your joy and your heart. Whether that's playing basketball, being in nature, or
of course,
going on seminars, or whatever you like.
And speaking about Joe Dispenza and reaching gamma levels, can you reach gamma levels with sound?
You can reach gamma levels with a hug. So, when they put electroencephalograms on people, someone comes in the room and it's your mum, someone you love, you go into gamma for a split second. But how long will you stay in that gamma for? No, I don't know. Yes, you absolutely can. I believe you do. I haven't personally put an electroencephalogram on anyone's test it yet. But I think that's where you're going. You're going very deep. That's one thing I found with the gongs, because quite unusually, not many chiropractors have big gongs in their practice. And so a lot of my patients, were, of course, just coming in because they wanted help with their physical limitation, or their back pain and all this kind of thing. And they wouldn't naturally probably have seeked out sound healing. But when I shared it with them, they were like, wow, this is really, I've never felt like that. Because a lot of people find it hard to get to a point of meditation. A lot of people think meditation's boring, I try and sit, I feel really useless because I can't stop thinking about other things. And it's demotivating, and you feel like, the gongs have a way of just really taking you there, unless you've got so much resistance and uncomfortableness and fear locked within you that you can't quite get over yet. In which case, you might not be quite ready yet. But you probably sense that out along the way. But they are super powerful tools, yeah.
You mentioned that you also work with muscle testing to help identify, because so I've been adjusted by you, and I really love your work, and I can see how specific you can get with muscle testing. If you could elaborate a little bit about that for people to understand more or less what you do with it.
Yeah, so a lot of people might not know anything about it. So muscle testing, coming from applied kinesiology, which is a chiropractic technique, muscle response testing, you could call it. So yeah, it's a dynamic way of asking questions to the body. And there's a few different ways of doing it, but you can find, for example, a muscle that actually is already weak, and then you try and find, is there somewhere or something that will bring it back to strength? So the body will often tell you it's functioning better, like say there might be a muscle in my arm, and then it's related to a bone in my neck, and actually by touching that bone in the neck, suddenly it's gone from, it was weak and now it's kind of strong. So it's giving me this feedback that, oh, that would be somewhere that's going to help bring the arm back to strength. And actually, it's usually like that. It's usually muscles are in a state of weakness. Now, it doesn't mean the muscle can't even contract, but it's not recruiting the muscle fibers quickly enough, so it's sluggish, so it comes off as a weakness.
Okay.
Yeah. And when we do the adjustment, for example, it reestablishes that neurological connection, and the muscle fires up, and it's strong. And yeah, I mean that's very classic. It's very classic. I've seen many people who've say had a shoulder weakness or something, and they're doing exercises with elastic bands, etc., and we just find the place in the neck that's where that nerve goes to that muscle, and sure enough, it's weak and it's affected from there, and we do an adjustment, and the arm comes back to strength immediately. It's not in like 10 sessions, it's like just comes back to strength. Now, depending how messed up those areas of the neck are and how much help they need to improve, yes, you may need, this is a process and everything, but that turning strength back on is very quick. So that's a physical side of muscle testing.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so you have applied kinesiology, a triangle of physical, emotional, chemical. So you can use muscle testing that way. You can use it in a biochemical way. Let's find a strong muscle. Let's put some bread on you. Oh, you go weak. Maybe you've got an issue with gluten, for example. Yes. You can use it that way. The way I like to use it a lot is actually on an informational, emotional way. So probably the biggest side of the triangle, to be honest, is the emotional side, in my opinion, which will be expressed through our physical. So, regular chiropractic and work like this is having that impact on liberation and understanding through our system. So we're helping the emotional system. But with specific muscle testing, you can hone it in a bit more, like, what is this about? And you can ask questions. You can say, is it to do with a certain emotion? And often by bringing that awareness, it's a bit like I was saying earlier about how I might just have awareness of an area and touch it and feel what's there. It creates that engagement of the person, which is the whole point. So when we connect to a specific emotion, if that's relevant for the person, in that dialogue between me and the person, their consciousness is beginning to pay attention to where they're resisting that emotion of sadness, for example.
Yes.
And often with emotion, it is that. It's really the resistance of emotion that's a problem. Emotion's meant to be, they say, energy in motion. It's meant to be moving. It's really the resistance of emotion that is where we get bogged down. So emotions, when they're liberated, they're giving us feedback and energy, and that's what they're meant to do. So yeah, we can use it in that way, and it's pretty amazing. And we could talk about this topic for quite a long time. On my retreat seminars, I am teaching some of this stuff actually. So I've kind of managed to distill quite a profound method for tapping into that mind-based muscle testing kinesiology, which is very helpful, especially if you're working with people and you want to understand how can you tap into that emotional reality, because then in my opinion, you can really help people on a big level doing that as well. Now, if also, whatever you do, the more you're free within yourself, love yourself, can hold that space, then just by being you can do that anyway. But actually those tools are helped me a lot for sure. And my journey with it was, I knew a lot of my, we call them subluxation in chiropractic, where we're blocked and there's a disconnect brain to body often through the spine. We call that disconnection subluxation. And I knew personally a lot of mine would come back because the delivery of the adjustment I was having wasn't quite connecting me with the emotional, undigested stuff I had stored within me.
Okay.
And then when I met other chiropractors and people like that who did work at this emotional level, I was like, yeah. It was like, that's when deeper healing really happened for me personally. So I knew a lot of my personal stuff was in that ilk, you know. Yes. So that's probably what motivated me to help people on that level. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, yeah, you know, so, you know, often people are expressing asthma, it's because in their lung they've got a lot of sadness. And if you can connect that and then adjust them, you know, I would have really good results with things like asthma. Mm-hmm. I'd usually expect it to massively change. Yeah, things like that. So it's amazing, yeah. Give it a go.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yes, I think it's very powerful what you do with muscle testing, because just for people to maybe have a little bit of an idea, I remember once I was with you and I started getting pain, a lot of pain, like in my shoulder blade, and I asked you to check me and you adjusted me, but the pain was still there, and I asked you, is it emotional? And you tested, and like you were able to pinpoint exactly what the emotion was. And you helped me through Ho'oponopono, and I worked through that, and then the pain went away.
Right.
And that's incredible. So I feel that the emotional factor is just a big part
it's
of
really
all
big.
this, right?
Yeah, it's really big. Yeah.
I feel it's sometimes more emotional than anything else. What's your?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really surprisingly is, and it's you know, if you think of things getting blocked in your body, well, that muscle going into contraction is kind of it's under the control of the nervous system. It's often a stress response, and that's usually something stored within us that hasn't been liberated. So it's usually we haven't felt safe, the permission, we're still blaming someone, we haven't taken ownership, you know, there's usually something in our way. It is a huge part of things, yes. And it's not actually, but the beautiful thing as well for me, coming back to chiropractic being an art, so I learned these methods of muscle testing, and I used to do loads of muscle testing and constantly asking questions about when did this come from, and so in your past life, you could ask, and as funny as it sounds, you know, things would show up like, you know, that would have a long timeline, for example, and it was all super powerful. But for me, as a practitioner, also, it was quite, almost like a lot of, it was quite heady for me to be in that state the whole time.
Okay.
So then I was like, well, actually, if we can really do the adjustment and feel and sense the body with empathy and love and all that, your consciousness is picking up all that information about whatever emotion it is, etc. And if you're really present with someone,
yes.
You don't necessarily have to ask what emotion, etc. it is. You're witnessing it, you're there, you're with them, they feel it, they open, they surrender, you do the adjustment. So that's a beautiful thing. So for me, but learning that, then I got drawn to some of the more artistic side methods within chiropractic as well. And yes, that's been kind of my kind of journey of that. But sometimes I really want to ask a question and go that way, you know. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences with that. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, and some very you know, fascinating stories. Like quite, you know, in the moment, in very interesting things. Like I had once, and one that always sticks to my mind. I may have said this before, but not today.
Not today.
Not today. I didn't. I had this fisherman when I was in Scotland, an old fisherman. He was like in his 80s, and I don't think he was fishing much now, but. He came in and he had one of his elbows was like, you know, almost twice as big as the other one. It was like at least 40% swollen.
Wow.
And his doctor said, "Oh, you might have gout," which is I think goiter. I think you got. So you might have gout, which is this issue that you usually get typically in your big toe.
Yeah.
Can be other places, but it's like an inflammatory arthritis thing. Anyway, I didn't think it was like. Personally, in the elbow, I was like, okay, I don't think, I'll ask the question with muscle testing. And it sounds very strange, the concept that you can do this is surprising for people. But anyway, I asked what it is, and I just say, is it insect bite? And I got a strong response, which might, to a lot of people who don't do muscle testing, might sound like, what does that mean? Well, what happened was within a minute, his elbow shrunk back to only 10% and the pain went.
Wow.
And it was one of those things that I would have loved to, I'd love to have seen it recorded, because it was like, because we were both kind of looking at his arm and I was like, I'm sure that's just gone like, and yeah, in a minute, it took a minute.
Well, just because you became aware of it and you were able to...
Yeah, because it came aware. I mean, was his consciousness not aware of it, or what? I would have thought it must have been, but somehow it wasn't allowed. It wasn't that piece that says, okay, use energy to heal now. I haven't been liberated. And that's the thing, you see, sometimes the way our body works is our mind, our body might be aware that we have an issue, but it might prioritize something else rather than that healing. It will always prioritize staying alive, actually, so survival. Yes. So often we won't, this is why it's classic. Often very busy people, very stressed people, they go, they're running on adrenaline. They're never ill until they go on holiday, then they're ill. Why is that? Well, you know, no doubt they've got some housekeeping they need to do in their body. They've got some rooms that are untidy and messy and unclean. But the body thought it didn't have the energy to heal it and start working on that, because it knew if I've got, say, a bacteria infection in my stomach or something, it's going to take an amount of energy to clear that.
Yes.
If I've got the sense that I'm under attack, like there might be a tiger going to come and eat me, I'm not going to prioritize that. Problem is, as humans, we're thinking animals, and we can create tigers and bears everywhere. And so it pushes those survival buttons, and we think we're in danger. It's the same. It's the same as there being a bear. But
exactly, when really it's just stress or just a normal
Exactly, it's just stress. It's just, you know, yeah, all that. And so that's a good example of that, is like those people, when they go on holiday, then they get ill, or that's why that's happening. So that was a long, rounded way of saying, so maybe for some reason his mind hadn't prioritized healing that thing in that moment. I don't, who knows why, but somehow by asking that question, it opened a door somehow.
It was incredible.
It was incredible. And I'm not saying if you get like 10 people with the same problem, like what percentage I'd have that response, I have no idea. I don't know. But it was very interesting. I mean, I have had, you know, it's quite, you know, you get good results quite consistently.
Remarkable. Yeah. So I love all the work that you do and this muscle testing and how you tap into the truth of each person. Now, I feel, okay, so the truth is within us. We just have to somehow access it. We maybe sometimes cannot do it on our own, so we go to a facilitator. But how can we access our truth without muscle testing or, you know?
Yeah, it's a good question. It comes down to listening. And the problem with trying to listen is making that space to do it. I would say feeling is the most important. So like healing comes from feeling. We often say that. And but we have to get out of the way a little bit, because say if I feel and I feel pain, I'm like, oh my God, that's wrong, I've got pain, and I'm scared because I don't know the body very well, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, it can be scary. Well, in that, we're disconnecting from, there might be a message from your knee or whatever it wants to tell your body, you know, to move differently, to move more, to change your diet, to forgive someone, you know, to love yourself more. There could be a message. So how do we do that? I think trying to have a practice of connecting to yourself more, learning what do you need to do to feel less stressed and more connected? Working on breathing, moving, you know, just try and take care of the basics, you know, how well you're eating, moving, thinking. Trusting that, you know, you don't have to go to someone else for the answers. However, going somewhere else might be a door-opening experience for you, you know, and you know, many different ways that could come through. But I would say what gets in the way very much is it comes back to judgment, a lot of it as well. You know, if I'm like, I shouldn't be this way, why is this like that? It just creates it creates disconnection from receiving. There's always a message trying to receive, you know. For me, like the whole process of healing is really, it's a movement from, you know, I'd like to say from illusion to truth, which means from part of my life stored in my experience and my physical that I haven't quite fully understood yet. So it's been stored there really to give me an opportunity to grow and understand and learn later in the future. It's kind of a beautiful mechanism, actually. But if we can bridge that gap, and I would say the more we can get into forgiveness and not in judgment, we will liberate ourselves from that. And that means, you know, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others as well. It doesn't mean disowning our feelings. We might have to go through anger, we have loss, we have grief. Actually, not trying to escape the uncomfortable feelings.
Yes.
Actually, I would say that's the difference. You know, the spiritual path, rather than trying to run away and escape and, you know, find a way out through, you know, getting adrenalized on drama, on the news, on shopping, on drinking, on whatever stimulants you like. We often do that because we've got wounds that are painful, that we don't know how, or we just feel numb. We feel like life's not very exciting, so we just want to go and get, you know, drink loads and do this. You know, I like drinking sometimes and everything. I've done my fair share, so I'm not a saint or anything like that. But I'm saying, if we find ourselves, rather than just trying to keep escaping from ourselves, you can't run from your shadow. You've tried that when you're a kid. You run and it's still there, isn't it? So we have to always listen and embrace what's there. What's the unseen? What's not understood yet? How do we get there? Also, is by not being attached to having to understand what that message is, but just feeling it and receiving it, and trusting that your deeper understanding does understand stuff. It does know what this is to do with.
Of course.
You know. So I think, you know, that would be my advice. And finding techniques that work for you, I think, things like the Ho'oponopono could be a nice process. Breathing, moving, just really feeling. Sometimes going really slow. Like if you've got an area that's really sore, rather than, often people get very robotic, their shoulders sore, so they're like, where is it? And they're basically, as soon as they engage with that pain, they're already pissed off, and then they're being a victim already. They're always like, I'm a victim, I shouldn't have this. That's the trap in itself. And people have also been conditioned to that, oh, you shouldn't have pain. It's like, yeah, well, if you are, then you probably should. It's a message from your body. It's like,
exactly,
it might not be what you want. It's like, it's there as a message to say, yeah, like change something, do something, listen. So really listen, like go slower, listen without being so attached, which is the funny one, because it's like, yeah, naturally you might think, why listen unless you have to know what you're listening to. Yeah. It's trust. Trust that your body is clever, it's intelligent. Your intelligence that made you body started from when you were a cell dividing and then kept dividing over 9 months. Now you're full human being born into the world. That intelligence, in chiropractic we call it your innate intelligence, that intelligence is always supporting you, it's always with you, it's always got your back, but we just got to help it along the way. We've got to help our actions and our thinking, and that would be the best advice I could give.
Because what happens if we don't listen and we ignore and we don't want to see that wound? Yeah, I feel that it just gets worse, and your body just collapses practically.
Yeah, exactly. And how long will that take for each person is different. Everyone has a different capacity. Everyone has, more or less resilience. Some people can, but again, hiding from that stuff, not listening to your deeper self, you're missing out anyway. So even if it took you might you might not break down for 20 years. You might go really well, or 50, who knows? Yes. If you had broken down in 3 months and then you're like rock bottom, but you changed your life, well, those next 20 years might have been even better. So, it's not just, who's to say it's better to, which way around is better. Yeah. I think the most better thing would be to, rather than have to wait till you have this or that, wherever you're at, trying to move forward in like, okay, I'm choosing, using that free will, I'm choosing to do things better, and like knowing and trusting that you do get paid back. It's not just that like, oh, well, if I do all this, well, yes, maybe then I won't get some sort of diagnosis in the future. It's not really that. I mean, it's people who go to the gym and think, or people who are engaged in a regular healthy activity, they're not actually usually motivated just to have less of their worst. People who go to the gym because they want to be less fat, they usually don't stay very long because it's not very motivating. But if you've got to that point where, oh wow, I just feel more connected and free and energized, and, whatever, that is pretty motivating. So wanting more of your best can be more motivating in the end. However, we can get stuck in a rut where we don't have enough energy, and then it's easier just to be, not taking care of ourselves so well. In the beginning, it's not really easier at all. But so you just have to try and do the work. But I think you're right. If you don't listen to your body, start doing something at some point,
there's where disease comes in and ailments. And,
well, exactly, and life's nothing's certain in life, obviously. But if you're doing things that nourish your soul, then that's got to help your life experience, hasn't it? So I think just focusing on trying to do that kind of thing.
Oliver, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. But before we leave, I just wanted you to leave us with one final message of healing for people. Anything that can motivate people to get on that path.
Yes. What would be my final? This reminds me of like Jerry Springer always had his final thoughts at the end, a long time ago. Okay. Oh my goodness. What would be? Well, I don't know how to say it anymore. Just try and enjoy your life and love yourself, love other people, and don't get. It's don't take everything too damn seriously, as they say, but follow your bliss, listen to what feedback you're getting from the world, and have hope, and and trust. It's things can always turn in a better direction, and and enjoy that path. It's a beautiful path. Learning more about your body, enjoying, I don't know, whatever you enjoy, but just learning to listen. That would be my main thing.
I love that. Thank you very much. And I'll put all your contact information in the description. So thank you, Oliver.
Well, thank you too.